Welcome to John Marshall High School's Exploring Woodworking Training Series. The bandsaw. The bandsaw can be used for cutting curves and to resaw cuts. When cutting, cut outside the line and save the line for sanding. The blade of the bandsaw is a loop of thin metal that is held in place by two large wheels. The wheel at the bottom of the machine is connected to a motor that drives the saw. The teeth of the blade have set, which means that each tooth is pointing out to the side. One tooth will point to the left side, the next points to the right, and so on. This makes the cut in the stock wider than the metal that makes the blade. The more set a blade has, the wider the curve or slot that is made in the stock. Because the blade is a loop of this metal, the bandsaw will cut curves. The narrower the width of the blade, the sharper the curve that can be cut. The bandsaw can also be used to make resaw cuts. A piece of lumber can be cut into two thinner pieces. If resawing, teacher's permission must be obtained. The home craftsman and hobbyist may need the bandsaw to cut curves or freehand cuts on various materials in the home shop. The bandsaw is housed in the body. The working area is the table. Power is controlled by the safety switch. The cutting part is the bandsaw blade. The blade is held in place and steadied by the blade guide pins or blocks and rollers. The blade wheel and blade are covered by the guards. The top and bottom are held together by the arm. The table can be tilted by adjusting the table clamp. The guide is moved by adjusting the guide post and the lock screw. Students should have no reason to adjust the blocks. If the blocks appear to need adjusting, contact the teacher. Safety procedures. The bandsaw is in the machine area where power equipment is used. Safety eye protection should be worn at all times when operating equipment in the machine area. With the power off, adjust the bandsaw guide to within 1/8 of an inch of the stock to be cut before turning on the power. The operator must not allow his or her fingers to come closer than 2 inches from the saw blade when cutting stock. Never stand at the right-hand side of the bandsaw. A serious accident might result if the saw blade breaks. You should stand facing the cutting edge of the blade, pushing the stock away from you. If it is necessary to back the stock out of a long saw cut, the power should be turned off and the blade allowed to come to a complete stop before removing the stock. Backing out the stock with the saw running can cause the blade to come off the guides and break, resulting in a serious accident. A sharp curve or small radius should not be cut except with a very narrow bandsaw blade. Remember, the narrower the blade, the sharper the curve that can be safely cut. Narrow blades break easier, so use a wider blade for most work and save the narrow blades for special work. Round or cylindrical stock, like dowels, should be cut on the bandsaw only when some type of holder, such as the cross-cutting gauge or a V-block, is used. No adjustments should be made when the bandsaw is running or in motion. Thin stock must not be stood on edge to be cut, unless it is firmly supported by the resaw fence against the downward thrust of the saw blade. This is not permitted at John Marshall High School without special permission and additional instruction from the teacher. If the bandsaw blade should break or come off the wheels while the machine is in operation, immediately turn off the power. Keep clear of the blade until it and the wheels come to a complete stop. Move back as you warn other students. Notify your instructor immediately about the problem. Allow the bandsaw to reach full operating speed before feeding stock into the blade. Do not stop the motion of the blade with stock after the power is shut off. Operating procedures. Visually check the adjustment on the top and bottom guides. These should be set according to the manufacturer's specifications. For instance, you may be told to have the guides lightly rub each side of the blade. Be sure the blade is between the guide blocks. Lower the top guide assembly and guard to width 1/8 of an inch of the material to be cut. This should be the only adjustment you should have to make. Check to be sure that you are following all of the safety rules, such as wearing eye protection. Then turn on the power to the bandsaw. Feed the material into the blade gently. Do not force the material into the blade to try to cut faster than the saw is designed to cut. Shut off the saw when backing out of cuts. Your hands should not be closer than 2 inches from the blade. When cutting curves, turn the stock carefully so that the blade will follow without being twisted. Keep your hands away from the line where you are planning to cut. If a curve is so extreme that it is necessary to repeatedly back up and cut a new kerf or slot, then you either need a narrower blade or a blade that cuts a wider slot or more sets. Use relief cuts, demonstrated in this picture, as necessary. You may find it helpful to use a coping saw to cut your material by hand if necessary. Remember, the shorter the radius to be cut, the narrower the blade to be used. When resawing material, set up a fence on the bandsaw table. Remember, permission is needed to resaw. As previously mentioned, in backing out of a cut, shut off the machine. The operator must be careful that he or she does not accidentally draw the blade off the wheels. If your bandsaw has more than one speed, use slow speed for cutting metal and faster speeds for cutting wood. John Marshall High School's bandsaws have only one speed. Congratulations! You are now ready to take the bandsaw online safety test.